So we had the option after kind of separating from Fuel by Ramen. We could look at doing it independent. We could look at signing with like an indie label. We could try and pitch to a major label. The world was our oyster. But when we started Against the Current, we started as an independent band. We started making videos online, and we did our first 2 EPs that we pretty much treated those like albums, even though they were shorter. We did world tours off the backs of them, headlining world tours, and we did that all on our own. So for us, we're like, we know the playbook, we know how to do it. We know what we want to do. We know the music we want to make. We know the direction we want to go. So for us, if we were going to bring in another, like a label partner, we would want it to be additive to the process. And right now where we were at, we were like, we don't really need anything else right now. We're like, we're good with what we're doing. So and it lets us iterate really quickly. We can kind of just do things as we want to do them, when we want to do them. We have a song coming out very, very shortly that we filmed the music video for yesterday. And that video is going to be done in a week because that's the way that we wanted to do it. And the song got turned in 3 weeks before it's coming out, as opposed to like 3 months, because that's when we felt like we were ready to do it.
Now, doing it independently, you mentioned something there about how literally it got turned in 3 weeks before it was supposed to come out.
Yeah.
What would you say is the differences between recording for a major label versus writing and recording on your own? How would you describe the differences between those?
I mean, for us at the end of the label is basically what we're doing now. We were just at home, we recorded at our house, we have a studio at home. And yeah, so it's just at the pace we want. But prior to that, you'd be in a writing machine, like a writing gauntlet of like 40 sessions in a row.
Yeah.
And you pick your songs, then you just spend a bunch of money recording it somewhere. And then
a lot less pressure.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, it came at a really good time too, because we kind of tapped into something with Fever that just felt like really real and genuine to us. So we obviously wanted to chase that. And it's kind of like a new frontier in a lot of ways. It's like back to like our roots and stuff. So it's been a minute, so it's nice not having the pressure and just the freedom to kind of get there on our own time, however long it takes, without the pressure of people wanting a song, you know what I mean? At like any cost. They're like, hey, you need a song, like get in this room with this writer, this producer or whatever. Now we can just, get it right on our own first.
Yeah.
And when you released your 2018 studio album, Past Lives, you guys went headfirst into your love of pop and electro music. At the time, you mentioned that it was identified as a direction that you always wanted to go into. But you made a really good point about Fever, how it seemed to kind of return to your roots a little bit while exploring a new direction. Musically, where would you say your identities and personalities are now?
I mean, yeah. I would say what like our most recent releases and the stuff that's coming up soon. I think we learned a lot. Like we love pop music. We love the what's the word, like dichotomy? I don't know. Just so like learning that process and what we like about it and what we don't. It only gave us more power in chasing this direction to incorporate like little elements from that, but into something that we like more, I think, and we we're happy with and performing for the next how long. The songs are just like they're more real, like, more genuine, and the fans, the response is amazing. Everything works incredible live, like our live shows. The second we put out Fever, it was like a whole new thing. We're like, what's going on here?
Given that releasing independently is how you started as a band, do you consider what you're going through now almost as a rebirth of Against the Current?
We were making this joke last night because we were shooting photos and we were all under this like piece of fabric together. And it was a red fabric, and we were like, it feels like we're all like in a womb together right now, and we're about to be reborn. Like, so we were literally making this joke last night. No, but I do think absolutely, like, it does feel like a rebirth of Against the Current, and because everything kind of feels new, even though we've been around for a while. It very much feels like when we started, and it has that sparkle, and it's super exciting. And I don't know. Yeah, it just feels like doing everything again for the first time in a good way, and so it feels like a rebirth, and it's all back in our hands again. So everything is coming kind of directly from us.
What would you say are the differences creatively between trying to cover a song in your own style versus trying to create a completely new song?
It's definitely a lot less pressure to do a cover because it's like the building blocks are there. It's just how you use them and or how you like kind of
interpret it.
Paint them, I guess, like it's there's a base already there for you. And like when you're making a song, there's nothing. You kind of just have to go off of start from nothing and figure out where you're going. I will say though, doing the cover so early in our career, I think made us better songwriters because in that process, we weren't just looking up, the tab and the guitar and all like the chords and everything and just doing it as is. We were really dissecting the songs, pulling them apart piece by piece, stripping them back to like their barest pieces and then rebuilding them. And that taught us a lot about songwriting and what makes a great song. And so I think covers are a great way for people to do that, especially if you really dive in and like strip back every single layer and get under the hood and be like, what is it about this song that works?
Yeah, like what makes it great.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of your early years, I'd like to learn more about your formative years as a band. What were some of the struggles and lessons that you learned early on? And is there anything that you know now as a band that you wish you would have known when you started out?
Yeah, I mean, so many things. There's so many things, though, that I think you learn through experience. So it's kind of tough to say, like, oh, I wish I knew it then, because I don't think it's like your parents telling you something. Like your parents are going to tell you things in high school, but it's not going to sit with you until you just made that mistake yourself. It doesn't mean anything. It's just words on a words out of someone's mouth, words on a page. I think the biggest thing, though, that maybe would have changed, like had an impact, is just someone telling me that no one really knows what they're doing. Everyone's just taking their best guess. The music industry, it's so dynamic and it's so changing. It's changing all the time. And on top of that, music is an art and art is super subjective. So there's not a science to it. Someone can't come in and, we can look at trends and things like that. Sure, whatever. If that's how you want to look at the music industry, it's probably a pretty fucking boring way to do it, but you can totally do it. So if someone's coming in and telling you like, I know exactly what works and exactly what doesn't work, and like, you have to do it this way, that way, it's just trust your gut. Like your gut is going to lead you down the right path a lot of the time.
Yeah. Like you don't need to try so hard.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that we realized with Fever, because we were like kind of nervous about putting it out. We're like, is this too like, not basic, but like back to our roots, that whole kind of thing. It was a shift from our last album.
Yeah.
But we were kind of like shocked by the response. Like it was exactly what people wanted and needed. It resonated the most out of any of our past releases.
Yeah, like we tried so hard. I know personally I tried so hard on Past Lives to like prove that we were like serious songwriters and we really knew everything, and adding in all of these little extra decorations and things to be like, look at how, all the stuff we can do. It's just not necessary. I mean, depending on your style, some people that is their style, but for us, it's like, it's always been about like the energy and raw emotion of each song. And that totally got clouded in Past Lives with just all the frills that we were putting around it. Whereas in Fever, it's to the point. It's like, this is what we are. This is who we are.
And it definitely translates in your music. When I was preparing for this podcast, I was actually saying to one of my fellow contributors to Altwire that Blindfolded literally sounds like the musical equivalent of being shot out of a cannon.
It's just like a train just going.
It's like you can actually feel the energy and the freedom in your music. Did that come across while you guys were writing it? Did you kind of feel energized and free, and that translated to the music?
I think there was 2 songs with Blindfolded. It was Blindfolded and one other, and I think both felt like really good transition tracks that could have gone either way.
Yeah. I think Blindfolded was the better of the choice, like,
but like
thematically.
like emotion wise, like I think they both fit that time.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of your new music, going back to something you said a few minutes ago, is there anything you can tell me about the song that's about to come out? Any details to hype the fans up?
The song is called Good Guy, in quotes, because, spoiler alert, it's not about a good guy. It's about someone who thinks they're a good guy. And I love this song. It is very just like in your face, calling someone out for, kind of just being an asshole. And my favorite line of the song is just one of the tags in the chorus is just, I used to hate you. Now I think you're sad, because it's just about that process of being so angry with someone right when they first scorned you. And then I feel like the growth process internally is then you kind of realize, man, like I was so worked up over this thing, and I just realized you're just a sad person. Like I feel bad for you. I feel bad that you have to live with yourself. Like I get to go away, like to leave this now. But you wake up with yourself every single day, and that sucks. So it's pretty scathing. It's a pretty scathing breakup song.
Raw emotions.
Yeah,
that's great.
Whoever that's about to feel very burned when that song comes out.
They cheated on me. It's okay. They deserve it.
Ah, fuck them then.
Yeah. You could do that, but then like if you're gonna punch, I'm gonna punch back.
There's a lot of F words in it.
There's a lot of it's our highest count.
I think it's probably we've never said that many in all the songs combined.
Well, because it's in
the hook.
It's in the hook. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gets
So dang
repeated.
catchy.
Yeah. It's not. They're not unique F words.
Yeah.
But yeah.
At F words 7 different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think about it. You know, I am someone who focuses a lot more on, you know, the vocals and the music, so I don't always concentrate on the lyrics. But
Yeah.
you guys really haven't cursed a lot in your songs, right? Am I mistaken to say that?
We've always, I mean, you never want to do it, make it forced. You know, some people are just like, oh, I got it. You know?
Yeah. We also have always kind of been like teetering on the edge of like somewhere between like a slightly edgy band, but also you could kind of take us home to your parents. So we've kind of always just walked that line a bit as well. This song though, it just suits the song. It just, we thought about it. We're like, could we replace this with another lyric? And it just didn't work. We thought about it and it didn't work. It captures the emotion. It captures what you're feeling. So I think for us, the most important thing is always just being authentic to the song. What serves the song best.
I've seen your lows, I've seen your highs. So drop the good guy. Don't make me laugh. Fuck will ever tell you how to love like that. I'm driving a whip to Ace for the last time. I used to hate you, now I think you're sad. Fuck will ever tell you how to love like that.
What was Blindfolded written in regards to? Like, there's so many different ways you can take that, but I'm curious about your meaning behind it.
Totally. I mean, the broad meaning of it is just that kind of be careful what you wish for, because when you get it, it can turn out to be a nightmare. And then, but for me personally, I mean, it's happened multiple times across my, life. But I think the biggest thing for me was just the music industry and being signed to a major label. And just to preface, like we worked with some amazing people over at Fuel By and in other areas of the music industry as well, like some of the most wonderful human beings. But I think what's become the machine of the music industry can really stifle creativity, can really suck the life out of an artist, someone that just wants to make things that they love. And so for me, I remember just being young and being like, I want to be on a label. I want to be signed to a major label, have a record deal. It's this big thing. And then you kind of get there and you realize this is very, very different. And it's no longer my dream. It's actually become my nightmare. And I think that happens for people, though, everywhere. Like, it happens in relationships, jobs, school, all those kind of things.
With it being a lot easier to release music, and a lot of people are getting their start on TikTok, would you, having started independent, then experienced your all-time dream, only to find out that it wasn't exactly what you wanted? In hindsight, would you now suggest to maybe younger bands to try to go it independently instead of going with a label?
I would say, I think that's blanket advice, which I don't like to give because I do think every project is different.
Fair.
I think there are certain things that labels are really, really excellent at, depending on the label, depending on where you are. I think I think you should do it as long as you possibly can on your own first, get as much growth and traction, and then figure out what you're missing and what you cannot do without bringing in someone else. And I think that was our mistake, is when we were blowing up with our YouTube, with our EPs, we could do it all on our own. And we just thought we needed the label to like move the needle and get to the next rung of the ladder because it was our first band. We didn't know what we didn't know. And in retrospect, like we could have kept growing it for a little while longer and then go into a label discussion and have a lot more leverage. But the problem is so many artists and musicians are like strapped for money or strapped for resources. So they go to a label and they sign their life away, which is what we did.
Yeah.
Like we gave up everything to be in control of the label. And it's like, it's that point, it's like we're partners, but we have no control. Our opinion can get vetoed at any time and any place. And that's a really, really discouraging place to be in.
What was the catalyst that made you leave the label? Was there a specific moment where you just looked at this and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore?
It was not our choice. We don't get to choose. You don't get that decision either.
We were mid-cycle. We were supposed to finish up an album.
Yeah.
But it worked out for us.
Yeah, in hindsight, it's
good timing.
What we needed.
Yeah, that's the other thing is you can't leave as an artist. If they want to, like, depending on how many options you sign, if they pick up that option, like, they could just hold you hostage if they wanted to. We're lucky that we didn't get stuck in that situation. I know artists that have been stuck can't release music because their labels won't let them go, and they won't release music on that label, and they end up in this like standoff for years. So we were really lucky that both parties were kind of like, hey, we've run our course. It's time to let it go, and we're lucky that they let us go. And but yeah, if they had wanted us to stay, we wouldn't have been able to leave.
It's really interesting. You were talking about labels keeping artists from releasing music. I'm not sure if any of you guys are hip hop fans, but it brings to memory what happened with Lupe Fiasco. He literally had an album that he had finished and his label was blocking him from being able to release it. So, it's kind of interesting because, a lot of times I've noticed sometimes when I'm interviewing people, they try to be a little bit pragmatic. They don't want to talk about what happens behind the scenes, but I feel it's really, really good for you guys to be so open about it because people don't know what they're getting themselves into. Literally, some people, they're young, they're excited, they sign a contract and they don't realize that it's a rights grab and you lose your light, basically.
Yeah, people don't, I think young artists, they don't realize what they're giving up, especially like the ones that blow up really quickly. And then all of a sudden they have all these like labels and even like, it could be managers, it could be agents, it's not just the labels. It's like the whole industry is like very predatory, and it's really, really hard to sift through and find the people that have hearts of gold and that really just like love music and want to do cool things with cool artists and cool music. And like I said, we worked with some amazing people. So I don't think it's the people, I think it's the institution, and they just get so big that like the institution itself has its own identity. So, some of our people that were on our team there that we worked with directly were wonderful human beings, amazing human beings. But it was like all of the processes that had gotten cemented over the years that were the things that really drained us. So, I think that's why people are looking towards like imprint labels as well. Like you see a lot of like big artists, legacy artists starting their own label projects under the majors. That way they have all the resources of majors, but they get to kind of play by their own rules a bit. I think that's really cool. But yeah, no one tells you when you're a young musician. No one's like, hey, by the way, like everyone's just going to try and take your life from you.
Switching gears a little bit, it's really exciting preparing for this podcast because a lot of bands, when I'm talking to them, they only have one focus. They're just focused on music and that's it. You're one of those rare bands where, especially you, Chrissy, you're doing so many different things that I kind of laughed. We actually ended up having 33 potential questions to ask because there were so many different topics we could discuss. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is, gaming has always been very closely linked to your band. You guys wrote, I believe, 2 songs for League of Legends, and you stream in your spare time. Yeah. And now you're also the CEO of Everlight. What was all your first introductions to gaming, and what are some of your all-time favorite games and franchises?
I think my first game was NHL 99 on PC, and then Frogger. But I was a PC gamer my whole life.
I'm trying to think. Like I was definitely like PS1 something, maybe like a Tony Hawk or something. But other than that, I mean, I loved like Nintendo stuff. I'm not like a massive gamer, but when I did, like some Super Mario Bros. For sure.
I started gaming at 3. I don't remember what the first game was, but I remember it was like something in like the realm of like Putt Putt or Freddy Fish or one of those like an educational game. But then I did start playing League of Legends when I was 16. And then Dan, when we all met, like Dan and I used to play Mountain Blade. Dan introduced me to that series. And yeah, so we used to play a lot of that. And also NHL, which I'm still really bad at, but I was bullied into playing by Dan very frequently. In the sort of your face is so serious. You look so angry. Face me.
Does Golden Tee count as gaming?
Yeah, we play a lot of Golden Tee now.
Big into Golden Tee right now.
Of course it counts. But yeah, so for me, like, I've always been a fan of like Riot Games. Like I was a huge League of Legends since I was 16, and then I also picked up Valorant when it was in beta, and I love Valorant. I'm terrible, absolutely awful at it, but I love it. In general, I love just like fantasy RPG games. Like that's kind of my cozy spot, and yeah, but kind of like a little bit of everything except for like survival games against other players because I'm just not good enough. So I just end up sad most of the time. So I haven't played a lot of those. I can't do it. It's too stressful. It's too stressful. Too much at risk.
Yeah. Honestly, I could never play RPGs, especially if other people are depending on me. I'd be the Leroy Jenkins where I go in, where I go in guns blazing. In fact, actually, funny story. For a while, I was making my fiance angry because we were playing Halo together. And my style when I'm playing by myself is I'll just go rushing in and I'll just, go guns blazing and shoot everything. And literally I had to learn how to become a team player because I kept on Leroy Jenkins everything. And she's like, if you don't stop rushing in and getting us killed, I'm not going to play with you anymore.
Honestly, yes. But sometimes it's fun when you have that group of friends that like everyone's like, all right, we're just going to like troll and we're going to all Leroy Jenkins. And then you're like, this is fun. I think that's why in League of Legends, I really like ARAMs. It's just a one lane and then like everyone kind of just does whatever they want to do. It's not so serious.
Now, what I'm really curious about, tell me more about Starfall. Everything I've seen from it so far looks gorgeous.
Oh, thank you so much. So Everlight, the company, is an IP/world building company, and Starfall is our first world. It's a fantasy world that exists in the realm of Lyra, and there's all of these floating skylands above the realm that have never been, people have never been able to reach them. And now we're at the dawn of the age of airship exploration is the timeline that the game is going to be taking place in. And so you're going to get your airship and be able to explore the Skylands with your friends. And there's magic and sword and sorcery and all of that fun stuff. And we're actually building the game inside of Minecraft. It's a modded Minecraft server. Wow. It's kind of got that like open world MMO energy to it. Airship battles and exploring the Skylands and questing. And we want to build a really cool system for creating your own Skyland and having your own house on your Skyland. So it's everything I want in a fantasy world and a game.
And I've also noticed in some of the concept art that's been coming out, there's a little bit of a Studio Ghibli feeling to it. Was that a deliberate homage?
Yeah, I mean, we are massive fans of Studio Ghibli. Like I grew up on those movies, and we've always found that art style is so soothing and appealing, and also just how cozy that is. Looking at little things, I think the details are what makes some of those films so beautiful, like the way grass blows and things like that. So one of our core tenets is magic in the mundane. It's like, how do you find the magic in the little moments? And so that's kind of the thing that we've been inspired by Ghibli and like other fantasy worlds as well. It's like, how do you make those little in-between moments? It's easy to make the big, cool magic fights and big arcane blasts of whatever. We have a color magic system, so whether it's wind or fire, whatever it is. But it's like, how do you make all of those in-between moments feel super immersive and magical as well? Like, how do you brush your teeth in the morning? How do you, get to where you're going? What are pets like? Do you have dogs or do you have baby dragons? Like, what is, all those kind of questions.
Excellent. So going back to what you did for League of Legends, I'm kind of curious, how did that collaboration come about? How did you end up writing Legends Never Die for Riot Games?
So we were in the studio at the time with our producer for, it was In Our Bones, right? Or was it Gravity?
It was In Our Bones.
It wasn't Gravity? No, I think it was In Our Bones.
Yeah,
In Our Bones. And our producer knew someone, had been in a band or had been tour managed by someone who then worked in the music department at Riot or creative department. And I was like playing League in the studio, and they mentioned like to their friend, like, hey, I have this band in the studio that like loves League of Legends. And I guess it happened to be at the time where they were looking for the artist for that year. And so we were able to just cut a demo to start, not thinking that we would even get very far, but even just going to campus was crazy because they have a big statue of Annie, who was the champion that got me into the game right when you walk in. So it was like kind of a dream come true just to be acknowledged by this company. But yeah, we ended up getting it and, recording and releasing Legends Never Die and getting to play it in the Olympic Stadium in China. And it was just the most crazy experience, and also insane because that year the stage was Summoner's Rift. And I was like, I've spent too many hours in Summoner's Rift virtually. So being able to play a show on it was pretty much a dream come true for me.
Would you say that was the favorite show that you performed so far, or do you happen to have other memorable venues that you...
It's a different thing.
Different,
That was like,
very different.
I mean, that's unforgettable.
High stress.
Yeah.
It's not your show. It's over before you know it. We were there for a week, and our performance was
3 minutes. Then the closing ceremony too.
Right. So we got 6
about 5 minutes. Yeah.
But then I think doing one of our shows in a big sold out venue is more rewarding for us.
We've just been releasing live videos from our show in Cologne last April, and for me that's one of my favorite shows of ours that we've ever played, because when we put that show on sale, so we had sold out a 400 capacity venue pretty quickly, and our agent was like, hey, the only other venue to upgrade to right now, there's no 800 cap available. We'd have to go all the way to 16. And I think the most we had sold out in Cologne at the time was only 800 people. So we were like, I don't know. And he was like, I think we should do it, even if you probably won't sell it out. It's fine. Don't worry about it, but it'll look good. And, you'll make more money, you have more fans in, it'll be good all around. And I feel like I just made it my personal mission in life to sell that show out. It's all I talked about on stream and everything like that. And then we did sell it out, and it was just so crazy being there. There was so many little things, we brought in, just more production, things like that. So we had there was a fireman there, and we were just oh, this is cool. We don't usually have these kind of people showing up for our gigs, we don't usually need them. And I just remember I actually feeling so nervous before going out on stage, because I was this is a big against the current show. And it was fully sold out. And we remember looking out the window from the green room and seeing the line and how far the line went. And we were this is insane. So, and then that show was just awesome. So, it's a dream come true.
One of your recent TikTok videos was a versus video where the band and crew voted on their favorite sci-fi, fantasy, and action movie franchises. What would you say are some of your all-time favorite TV series and movie series?
Ooh, TV and movie specifically.
You can go gaming too if you want to.
Movie. Well, TV, I'll tell you, I think one of the best gaming adaptations, even though it technically was books first, I guess. Anyway, but I thought The Witcher was great.
Yes.
Love the Lord of the Rings movie. Don't love the Amazon adaptation. I don't know. What?
I like
Star
Archer.
Wars. Oh, Archer's great.
Yeah, that's probably the only TV show that I like right now.
What about Arrested Development?
That was a great one.
That was
I don't know about
us.
I don't know about the comeback, but
but the first two.
Yeah.
We had one of our buses that we had in the UK and Europe that we toured on multiple times had a hard drive in the TV, and it had Arrested Development, and we had the first 2 seasons just running on replay all day, every day on the bus. So for some reason, even when no one was there, so we can all just I feel quote it inside and out.
Yeah, and then actually take it even further on one of those tours. We were just parked up in Amsterdam and had a day off or something. And we were parked outside the venue. We were playing the next day.
Oh,
we
yeah?
Look up, and as Arrested Development has been playing on loop all day on every TV on the bus, we look up and it's David Cross, who's one of the he's performing tonight at the venue. And so we talked to the promoter. We went to go see. It was just wild. It's just what is happening? How did this happen?
What are some artists that you'd still be very starstruck to either collaborate with or tour with?
Dave Grohl.
Yes.
He's always my answer, but it'll never change because I met him once when we were playing Reading and Leeds, and he was as kind, if not kinder, than he comes off, which is crazy because they're always oh, don't meet your heroes. And I usually think that's true. And he's just wonderful. He's just such a good person. So nice, so kind. I was hey, I'm so sorry to bother you. I just, my band just played and I'm a big fan. And he goes, oh, how's your set? And I was Dave Grohl just asked me how my set is. My biggest fangirl moment ever. So, yeah. Dave Grohl.
What about you guys?
Still on the hunt for Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, really.
But
We get to watch him in a few hours.
Yeah, we do.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
First,
Coachella
the
live
first.
stream.
Oh, a
Nice,
live
nice.
stream. I was like, are you guys going to a show?
It's like, you're going to a show and you didn't invite me? How dare
I
you?
got really sad.
There's a lot. I don't
There
know.
are a lot.
Green Day?
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
That would be an amazing tour. We'd open up
Yeah.
Green Day all day.
I would love to collab with Bon Jovi at some point because that was my first concert ever. Was Bon Jovi. I'm from New Jersey. I just feel like I owe it. Or Bruce Springsteen. Like either
Bruce.
The
they're
boss.
the boss. The boss. They're into my New Jersey blood. So one.
And I like to save this question towards the end because sometimes I get some really amazing stories. I want you guys to spill the beans on some of your funniest touring moments, funniest touring stories.
I mean, I got pretty messed up on this last tour. And I was puking outside, hanging on to like I don't even know.
Well, no, it all
I don't know, you guys, I wasn't even there.
It started like we were on the Pierce the Veil tour, and
they had an after party,
and it was like a prearranged. Everyone go
It was
upstairs and
good,
meet the
clean
band,
fun.
and then
It was like a mixer for all the bands
yeah.
on the tour. There, which is really sweet.
got a little mixed up.
and Will
for sure.
mixed.
Will got mixed. Yeah.
I got a little mixed up.
So Will was outside for like several hours. We were all taking shifts, managing Will.
And then
then-
and then he was making a little noise, and some of the Pierce guys came out as their crew was carrying him onto our bus.
I like
Two-
just
yeah,
met
yeah.
them. Like,
Two of them. Well, no.
well,
Flounder was one of the guys that helped carry you up. Flounder was on our very first tour ever. But then the best part is, so we laid you down in the back lounge because I don't know why we didn't want to put you in your bunk. I think just in case you threw up, we didn't want you to throw up in the bunk. So we put you in the back lounge, and then we gave you like a plastic bag to like in case you needed. But you were holding it over your whole face, and I was so worried that you were gonna suffocate. I was so anxious. I was like, he's gonna like kill himself in his sleep. Like if he holds it, he's gonna cut off his air. And I was like, hey, Will, like, do you mind just lower the bag like an inch?
I do remember you talking like it was like so.
Yeah. I was like, hey, like just an inch. And then you're just like, the bag is nice.
The comfort of knowing that I could just do whatever needed to be done.
The bag is nice. And you were so peaceful about it. You're like, no, the bag is nice. And like that just became the catchphrase of the whole tour where it's like, the bag is nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the next tattoo. The bag is
The
nice.
bag is nice. It was like it was really very full circle with like the definitions of like, do you ever feel like a plastic bag? Like
Yeah.
Will just really felt that plastic bag. The worst part is we were playing 2 nights at that venue. And so this was after night 1. So all the evidence was still out in the parking lot the next morning.
It also took
We didn't
me
get to
literally,
leave.
like, I don't even know what time we were playing. Like, fairly late. It
Yeah,
took
it
me
was
the
like-
entire day to recover, and somehow
I was so surprised you made it.
I
through
drank
that.
like 2 liquid IVs right before we went on. It was just, I didn't even talk until
Yeah.
like 45 minutes before we played that night. I just couldn't.
There
It
he
was
is. He pulled through.
The bag is
We made it.
nice. That was a
You
good
do realize what's going to happen now, right? Once
The
this
bag.
podcast comes out, you're going to have to come out with the bag is nice t-shirts.
Honestly, we're gonna release a canvas tote. The bag is nice.
yeah, waterproof. It's like you can
It's
throw up in it.
It's got a lining in it. When you had one too
You can
many.
do anything. All right, someone else. Themselves. That's not me all the
That-
time.
no,
We
that
were
was
feeling
the-
it. The tours
Yeah.
were awesome. Everything was great. The vibes.
That was very
We're like a
rare.
very boring band when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's like, because it's so rare, like some people might just be like, yeah, that was, I don't know. I feel like you say that story to a lot of other bands and they're like, yeah, that's
Yeah, it's
Tuesday. Like that's,
I didn't drink
that's-
the rest of the tour.
yeah,
Legitimately, really, I couldn't.
nope.
It was rough.
So I feel like, for us, that's like, that's us getting real rowdy.
Oh my goodness. You know, I had a feeling that this was going to be a fun podcast and you guys definitely did not let me down. So,
Yay.
so just to kind of wrap things up, is there anything else that you would like to say to your fans that'll be listening in? Anything else you'd like to add?
New
I hope
song.
you love the new song.
Yeah.
1 week.
Yeah, we think it's fucking awesome. So
Yeah. We'll see you on tour this year.
HEC Unhinged.
Yeah.
Also, thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for supporting us.
Always.
And also the bag is nice.
The bag is nice.
beat me to it.
Well, hey, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank
Yeah,
you
you
so
too.
much.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you.